Alrighty, this is Vicki again. Still working on lights and position for this camera, but I think I'm pretty happy with it for now. Had good response on the videos yesterday on pastel and acrylic skin tones. So today I got the bright idea, and I've kind of been easing back into it. Watercolor was my first media, and I put it up and have just since I started art journaling gotten it back out. So I thought, well, I'll just see if I can do that same technique using watercolor. And you know what? I'm not near as scared of watercolor as I used to be. This is the one I did before I turned the camera on to make sure I could do it. Nah, I cheated just a little bit. Okay, so I went through my intermediate level watercolor supplies, and I don't get my good brushes out because I still have some bad habits with brushes that I need to break. And that is, I'll tell you, the really expensive brushes I have. Now this is an intermediate. See how fine that point is? Come on. It's really fun. Comes to a good point. And this is dry. So what you want to look for in a good watercolor brush, or you know, just a medium watercolor brush, is you want to get it really wet and then shake it and see if it comes back to a point. Watercolor brushes are more expensive than acrylic brushes, but they last a lot longer if you treat them right. And now that's the point that I'm going to make right now. The body of the brush is real fat, and then it tapers and all the hairs taper down. You're not supposed to paint with the tip of the brush. You paint with the belly of the brush, like that. And this is where all the pigment holds. And you can wear those little tip brushes out if all you do is diddly around with fine point using the tip. Kind of like this one. These black brushes are by Low Cornell, and they're a good mid-range brush. Let me find one that isn't worn out. It's the Low Cornell 7020 Ultra RD. It's a round. I use rounds because my first tutor, Charles Reed, used rounds, so I use rounds. This one is also a pretty good brush. This is more of a wash brush. It doesn't come to a point like the others, so it's real good for smearing in backgrounds. This is a Robert Simmons White Sable. So for today's demo, I'll be using the size 8. Just a good medium size. And I'm going to put these others up. These brushes, like I said, are my intermediate brushes, but they do not, they're in a separate bowl over here, and they are not used with acrylics, okay? No acrylics, no pastels, because the paper of pastel will eat them up. So they stay separate. I stole one of my little tools from my old acrylic painting days. This is one of those nasty nose snot clearer outers that you use for babies. This is excellent to have on your palette if you just need to put a drop of water on a dried watercolor chunk. This is perfect, and it saves your brush. See? So you're not dipping in the water and using the point of your brush, trying to get it wet. Put a drop of water in here. Now yesterday I took some, I was digging around for lack of anything better to do, and it's pretty non-threatening, so I did that. I went through a bin of things that I had put away a long time ago when I was learning watercolor. I found all kinds of neat little plastic trays where I was learning about pigment. These are Winsor Newton colors. This is a cheapy palette. Comes with a plastic lid. Anyway, I found that, and being that it's artist watercolor, the only one that cracked and went all over was the sepia. The rest of these are just as creamy as the day I put them in there. Guys, it's been since 2003 more than likely when I put these in. Here is another little palette with some colors that are recommended by Tom. I can't remember his name. It'll come to me. These are his 4 punch colors, he calls them. It's Holbein Opera, permanent yellow, lemon, permanent green, and peacock blue. And those are the colors that he uses toward the end of a painting when he just wants to give it some punch. So of course I've got those. And I also showed you, or I took a picture, I'll show you again. We took our first trip in December of 2002. And I didn't want to go. I was in a bad mood. It was the first Christmas since our daughter had passed. And I was just determined I was going to be in a bad mood for the rest of my life. But I had started taking some watercolor classes, and I thought, okay, well, being the OCD person I am, I started searching everywhere for travel paint kits. Now, of course, they're everywhere, but then they weren't. So I finally ended up on this solution. I went to Hobby Lobby and bought these paint tub strips. I filled them up in a chromatic order and carefully labeled each one of them. And this is what I took to South Africa. We were gone for 5 weeks. So when I found these yesterday, I thought, no way, 2002. And I popped them open. They're perfect on the inside. All they needed was a little drop of water, and they still work. So call this a frugal travel kit, but pretty cool. Pretty cool. And I'm using that today. Another little thing I found. This is one of several. This is a Winsor Newton travel palette. You got your little tray here that you can, well, you're supposed to be able to put your thumb in there somewhere. Let's see. Well, maybe you're not. If that's the case, I don't know why that comes out. But, as you can see, I've hardly used it. There used to be a little sponge right here, and the travel brush fit here. And I'm talking off camera. These are student grade paints, which there's nothing wrong with those for most art journaling. This is another little thing I picked up on eBay. This is an antique enameled box, and it's called the Rembrandt box. It was made in Paris, and isn't that just cool? Can you imagine a 18th century painter using something like that in the field? That's cool. Okay, I digress. So there's that. I dip my brush in water and then very lightly touch it to a paper towel just to get the excess water off. My tutor, Charles Reed, dips it in the water and then shakes it down to his side all over the floor. And he gets the perfect amount of water left in his brush for his technique. I used that technique once when we were painting in Italy with him, and a busload full, we were in Assisi, painting on the town square. How cool was that? So anyway, a bus full of Japanese tourists and all kinds of foreign-speaking tourists jumped out, and they crowded around us like we were in a zoo. And nervous as I was to be painting in public, I figured those people would never see me again. So anyway, I took that little trick and got my brush all wet and slung it down to my side, and they scattered. I thought that was just funny. Alright, so get your brush wet, and then just touch it to your paper, touch it to your pigment, let it pick up your pigment, and you're ready to go. Now I'm going to turn my music back on. Alright, here we go, because you know I'm playing my music. I've got this sped up quite a little bit. I'm going to try to use the same technique. I am also using a demo of a Charles Reed book. And I'll show you the cover of that when we get to the end of the video. So that's one reason why I'm going so slow and I'm piddling. I don't know this head tilt as good as I know the one I did in acrylic and pastel yesterday. Excuse me. So this is kind of a learning curve for me. I need to widen my horizons and do something besides a full face forward with light coming from the upper left. So here we go. I put in the shadow and the triangle for the nose and the mouth, and softening as we go. This is still just burnt umber. There's a lot to be learned by working in monochrome, especially when you've got so many other factors that you're trying to control. Kind of looks like a one-eyed purple people eater here, except she's not purple. Got that eye all the way over the nose. But again, this is for demo. This is, as light curves over a ball, the light hits on the shadow. Where I softened that going through the lip, and then of course just put it back in, is accentuating the curve of the egg shape. There, I'll get it out in a minute. The mouth kind of looks like a mustache now. Coming up underneath that cheek. And the light I showed you with the arrows coming from the upper right. Trying to keep the light areas cleaned out. There are so many different techniques for doing this. Now I'm trying to widen up the face just a little bit. And of course, you could always do a light pencil drawing. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that either. Let's make it hard on ourselves. Come in with the ear, and you'll see me measure it here in a minute. The pupil of the eye and where the ear attaches at the top are even, and the bottom of the nose with where the bottom of the ear attaches. And then the earlobe and the cartilage and stuff at the top of the ear outside that zone. That'll give you a handy measurement. And as I was watching this, I see how that shadow is on the wrong side of the nose. It should be on the left-hand side away from the light. Drawing it real good. And I'm getting ready to glaze it, but my memory card got full on the camera, so it stopped right before I got into the color. I'll show you a still shot of that. It worked great. Splatter a little bit. Here we go. Now it ended. Here's the first painting. Here's the second one. Here's the figure painting in watercolor by Charles Reed. Was published in 1972. This one is another good one by Alex Powers. It was published in 84, I think, and has just been re-released. I happen to have an old copy, an original copy. And that's it. I'll do some more videos with skin tones later on. Thanks, guys. Bye.